Zeke Kralin has written a series of stories that's all one long story about the vicissitudes of dog sitting in the city on a budget. And also, incidentally, supporting a homeless person who I think, this is just my opinion, is taking advantage of him. But, why listen to me? Just Work With Me Here is the title of this particular installment of the story. Zeke Kralin wrote, email correspondence from October 13th to the 17th. Subject, just work with me here. Deke is the other character. Zeke and Deke. Keep them separate. Deke showed up early, 8:30 a.m., in fact. He called up to my window, but I was already in the lobby on my way to Rosenberg's, so I startled him upon opening the front gate. He demanded I sit the pups now, 'cause he's off to work collecting recyclables. I tried to set up a schedule to make things less stressful for me while giving him ample free time away from the pups. A generous arrangement of 6 hours every other day, then 2 or 3 every day in between, which would allow me enough hours in the week to continue my writing and internet activities, though I'd have to see some aspects of it, such as posting so much to the MC and mailing lists. Yes, he could even break up the 6-hour days into 2 separate time slots, totaling 6, but I couldn't get any further than let's set up a schedule, here's my idea, before he rudely interrupted and ranted on how I'm not doing my fair share and he'll have to give the dogs up if things go on this way. I told him the mutts are a blessing, he knows it, and is just using them to play me. I can't get anything done when they're with me. I just sit around bored out of my skull, he exclaimed. There's a lot of things I need to do, and they're tying me down, Zeke. Oh, please, stop the drama. The more love you show the dogs, the better your life will be, and you know it, I replied. I didn't say I won't watch them again right now. Glad to do it. I just want to establish some sort of schedule that works for us both. Otherwise, I'll get exhausted and won't have enough time to write more stories and make that breakthrough. Exhausted, he snapped back. All you do is sit around all day. So how could you ever get exhausted? It's mental, Deke, and it's real, I retorted. Just because you don't understand does not justify bossing me around. Dealing with that alone is an exhausting proposition. I also told him he was fine on his own with the hounds before they started visiting me, and I'm now giving him plenty of time each week to do his errands on his own and his bike riding for recreation. Well, Watson, he refused to listen. All the blame is mine, blah, blah, blah. Then he said, gotta go now. The dogs are yours. How soon will you be back? I called to him as he dropped the leashes and swiftly moved on toward Castro Street. I don't know, he called out, with a large sack of aluminum cans and glass bottles rattling against his shoulder blades and butt. 2 things are going on here. 1, he knows how much I adore the pooches, so he holds that over my head, threatening to get rid of them unless I do this or that. 2, everything is leverage to him. Whatever he possesses or conjures up in his mind is always geared to manipulating the other person, so he'll get his way, or at least try to, and the pups are simply one of those possessions. Though I must admit, every time I sit the canines, I have a really nice day. But it is a bit nerve-wracking sometimes, such as when a speed freak parks his fundament in the alcove and acts sketchy, or whenever I have to return to my hovel to fix a meal, use the bathroom, etc., because they're out there without protection for whatever craziness may come down the road while I'm upstairs. Later on, a Castro tour guide with a cortege of rubberneckers magically appeared before the ATM nook, where I sat with the hounds, typing away on my tablet with some difficulty due to solar glare and lack of a real keyboard. When the guide, lesbian and 60-something-ish, saw this mini oasis occupied by 2 assumed to be transient men, the second being Deontay, who had slept here overnight and was still recumbent, turned to her brood, sighed, and said, just work with me here. Humph, I thought, considering my decades of dedicated activism for LGBT rights here in San Francisco. Sorry, San Francisco is what it says, and our homeless family in particular. I should be part of the tour. Yet here I sit, perceived as some old codger down on his luck with nothing worthwhile to say or know about him. No golden years he. Rather than brushing me off, I wish the lady would have declared with immense pride. And now may I introduce you to our local LGBT advocate of many years, Zeke Kralin, who focuses on our homeless and is presently dog-sitting for a long-term friend who lives on the streets. Mr. Kralin himself is still housed, though it is indeed a most humble cell he occupies, living many years in a rent-controlled single room, whose 2 windows you can see right above the front gate here, has allowed him to dedicate a considerable chunk of his Social Security stipend toward helping his indigent companion and these delightful pooches. At any rate, I recorded a snippet of her talk, which you may now watch and listen to here, and there's a link to it in the article. Caption: While I was sitting Deke's pups this morning, our fabulous Castro tour guide, whose name I don't recall, paused before me for a few minutes with a gaggle of eager neophytes, so I decided to shoot a brief video of this momentous moment when they totally ignored yours truly, regarding me as a hopeless old vagrant instead of the dedicated activist of many years for our LGBT houseless. She really should make me part of the tour. What she said in that clip, in case her raspy pot smoker's voice was too blurred from the murmur of traffic for you to discern, was the following. Sexuality. For instance, I know several female-to-males that still date lesbians. How did Lou Sullivan identify that they were transsexual? End quote. Scampy also showed up today, said, "Hi, where's Deke?" And I told her, collecting bottles and cans. And then she noticed the pro-homeless posters in the ATM nook and exclaimed, "Wow, that's awesome. Who put those signs up there?" "I'd like to know that myself," I replied, and shake their hand. But there's only the title and nothing else to indicate the photographer's name or the person or group who put them up. Her recognition of those posters and appreciation of them really impressed me. Makes me realize how easily a homeless person, especially one with obvious psychological issues, can be underestimated. Scampy has her act together more than I realized. I guess I'm guilty of underestimating the indigent myself. I suspect she's yet one more bodhisattva angel in the guise of a vagrant, but they're such good actors it's easy to forget. Deke returned 3 hours and some minutes later from the time he departed. Not bad at all. I think he likes to keep me guessing, the little snot. I really don't mind his getting me out of bed at cock's crow and passes the doggy leashes to me, even though I haven't had my coffee yet. I just prefer to start each day slow and calm. But with my Cajun devil, it's like boot camp, where you have to move your arse pretty quick once you arise, and it's an order to jump out of bed. Not a leisurely decision on your part. I'll just have to adapt, as it is all about the Brindlekin, a most worthy mission that warms my heart. One final note worth your interest. After Deke returned, he laid out some mixed wet and dry dog food on a folded trash bag. I was about to tell him I don't think they're hungry yet, but then realized he's no longer forcing them to eat off the sidewalk, which pleased me no end, so I kept my trap shut. He does indeed listen to me. Subject: clean as a grubby whistle. This morning, upon returning hovel with my Rosenberg Java, I observed that the ATM nook was strewn with garbage, along with a new chair that was large and plush enough for both pups to share, so I decided to clean up the area after breaking fast. So an hour later, I stepped out to do just that, but lo and behold, someone else had already taken care of the dirty business. At first I thought maybe some ambitious vagrants came by to make their humble oasis presentable enough that residents who live close by would not complain, with the city winding up having it caged off. I've seen Scampy doing cleanup of this or that homeless encampment more than once, and she's done a spectacular job each and every time, usually with the help of one or two other indigents, but maybe it was the Castro Cleanup Patrol that you see daily with their wheeled bins, brooms, and cleaning rags. Sure enough, when I looked around, I saw one of them nearby, who probably took care of the ATM alcove while I was upstairs noshing on an English muffin and guzzling down a banana smoothie. Nice thing is the plush chair is still in that corner with the added bonus of 2 new plush pillows. At any rate, with or without anyone's kind intervention, I myself will participate in cleaning up whatever debris the homeless may leave behind, without waiting for someone else to do it. I actually did that for the first time yesterday after Deke and his friends departed. To my surprise, they left it spotless, so all I had to do was remove several cardboard sheets. That little area is right in front of the super-duper fast food joint with outdoor seating, so I think it's good policy to make sure no debris is left behind, to keep the goodwill flowing and not motivate them to push vagrants away. Same thing goes for the ATM depot and the area behind the building, all long-established hangouts for the homeless to gather now and then. Where would I watch the doggies if indigents were banned from around my building? I'd be too far removed from my hovel to tend to my own needs and be back within minutes, such as preparing a bite to eat and using the restroom, not to mention fixing the pup's meal and bringing them water. My conclusion, I should not worry so much, as some other equally good option always steps in to replace the old one. P.S. Deke has not shown up yet today to have me sit the pups. I appreciate the break, but I suspect he'll arrive later, maybe by evening, at least because he'll need his devices charged, if not the mutts watched. But at any rate, they now have a cushy easy chair to rest upon next time they visit. Subject: just got off my shift. Dog watching, of course, from 3:30 to 9:45 p.m. Such long hours, I should demand a raise. Pleasant day. Boulevard Joe showed up 20 minutes before Deke. Excellent conversation. Deke was mellow. He's out there now with 2 other visitors, one of them Scampy, and the doggies are comfortable in their plush easy chair. So 5 pictures of the dogs, and one of Matt, who I've never met before. Asked if he could sit down. I said, of course. Handed him a square of cardboard for his posterior. We talked a little. Then he lit up a bubble after first inviting me to join, but I said, no thanks. Go ahead. It doesn't bother me. He soon went fast asleep. Nice fellow. So there's a picture of him, too. Deontay was there as well, snoozing in the opposite corner all day long. Oh, good news. I asked Joe if he's seen Arwin lately, and he said yes. He's working at Molly Stone's these days. I'm so glad for him that he is. Not that I'm going to surprise him by showing up. It's a ritzy-titsy, overpriced supermarket anyway, but he's still in the neighborhood is what counts. In fact, he took a whack at the parking sign out my window just last night. Even though others have taken to slamming that sign with their fist, especially the Hohokam jerks, I always check to see if it was Arwen. This time around it was. I watched him walk up Market Street toward the bay until I could no longer see him. He did not look back to see if I was there at the window. Why should he, since I'm sure he knew I was? Fine with me, because I knew that he knew that I knew just the same. It is his unique way of letting me know he's around and watching over me in his own obfuscating style. I can't wait till he finally sees me sitting out there with the hounds. That should be an interesting encounter. He might even think I'm homeless now. What a hoot. Just got off my shift. Watson wrote, that alcove is great. So I replied, it's become an accidental shrine to the homeless, so much nicer, minus the machines and the elitist rabble they attracted. Watson wrote, and the dogs look very cozy, comfy, and happy. So I replied, after a few hours of them sleeping there, I took the pups for a little poopy walk up and down the block. Apparently they only needed to pee, because when I turned them all around to proceed to the other end of the block, they tugged on their leashes. When we got near the alcove, they were dying to climb back into their cozy nest, so I let them. Watson wrote, those other pictures you sent of the alcove with its posters are especially compelling. So I replied, yes, striking, bold, radiant. They have transformed the ATM nook into something far better because meaningful. Though Boulevard Joe made his excellent observation, they're not from here. Looks like it could be Los Angeles, and they're all Latinos. There should be pictures of the local homeless of various ethnicities, black, white, Asian, Native American, and some Latinos. I told him I agree, but this is a good statement nonetheless. Watson wrote, it's chilly and damp up here. Can't be too much different down there. Hope you are warm and dry. So I replied, the weather's actually quite fair today. Not at all chilly and damp. Been like that for several days now, but tonight had a sad ending anyway. Deke had moved his things and the mutts to the bus stop and sat there for 15 minutes or so before leaving the neighborhood, but while they were still there, a skateboarder came careening by. The dogs leapt, barking and pulling on their leashes until Deke's bicycle, laden with large bags tied to it, came crashing down. Fortunately, Flacco and Lucky were not injured, but I saw Deke examining Lucky's snout to see if the skateboard had struck him there. The skateboarder had stopped and was most polite to Deke and apologized. So many times I've told him to not tether the pooches to his bike unless it's laid down on the sidewalk first. He finally started to do that several months back, but recently he's returned to his old habit of tying the leashes to the handlebars while the bike's standing, and when I tell him that's shameful and disgusting to do that, as if he wants the dogs to get hurt, and I will, just as I have before, he'll scream at me and walk away. Nothing gets resolved. Then he has the nerve to demand I give him money in advance. I have never seen any of his friends press him on this, and I don't know why. Maybe if I talk to Scampy, she'll listen and get on his case. I'll bring it up to West, too.